Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss Degree IV Sem English Unit 1 poem Ozymandias. And before we go on to discuss the poem, and this is Ozymandias written by P B Shelly, I would like you to have a practice of the pronunciation of the title of the poem Ozymandias. It's pronounced as Ozymandias. So Ozymandias. I wish all of you practice the name of the poem. Okay.
Took you
Next,
to
we'll
stop
also
recording.
pronounce the word. Next, we'll try to pronounce the author's name. Is how we pronounce P B Shelly. P B Shelly. Hope all of you try to learn then how to pronounce the title of the poem and the author of the poem. So the poem Ozymandias written by B Shelly. So there are some pre-reading questions and I always advise the students to go through the pre-reading questions so that you'll understand the main theme of the lesson or the poem. So first one, what purpose does the statue of a person serve? Why do you think the statues are erected, students? So that we remember the persons always. What kinds of people generally have statues depicting them? So they are the great rulers and the popular rulers. They have the statues actually. Have you ever seen the statue of a king or that of a political or a military leader? In what poses are kings and leaders usually depicted on statues? What does the pose tell us about the person? So every statue has got its own importance and the poses tell us something about them or there will be a message given in those statues. Now about the author. In his short life, all of you try to focus on these students. Short life means that he lived only for 29 years. Percy B. Shelley, born in 1792 and died in 1822. That means only 29 years he lived. But he achieved the distinction of being a major English poet. His radical ideas favoring atheism and political reform clashed with those of conservative English society. Those days, the Christianity was very seriously taken and they were following. But he said there is no God. He was favoring atheism and there should be some political reform. And do you think any king or the ruler likes these kind of radical ideas? No. So as a result, what happened? He was expelled from university and eventually forced to leave England permanently. He was not allowed to live in England itself. So these ideas, the revolutionary idealisms, they're reflected in the poems like Ode to the West Wind, To a Skylark, and The Cloud. These were the poems which really became sensational in those days because nobody dared to say or go against the king, but he went against the king. Shelley's contempt for tyranny and authority is evident in this poem, the present poem, Ozymandias, a commentary on human vanity and the transience of power and wealth. He said the power and wealth are not they are all temporary, they are not everlasting. And he takes the ruined statue of a once mighty king. There was a statue of a mighty king, but now it is in a ruined state. So the poem shows that all leaders finally come to an end. That's what he told. All leaders come to an end. And also the vast empires they build says nothing is permanent. All these rulers have to come to an end along with their empires. So this was the gist of the poem, students. And through this poem, Shelley exhibits his contempt for tyranny and authority of the then ruler, the king. The King George III was ruling England at that time, and Shelley did not like the way he was ruling. He developed a kind of hatred towards the king. He is the King George III, because he believed in a democratical ruling and he needed that he wanted a need for a political reformation where the kings were not willing to yield to it. And this was the attitude of King George. Anyone who does not agree with me is a traitor and a scoundrel. This was his opinion, students. So Shelley did not like it at all. So let us discuss the poem Ozymandias. So Ozymandias, actually, when Shelley wrote this poem, he had been to Greece and he has seen the statue of a king called Ramses II of Egypt. The other name for that king is Ozymandias. He too was a very powerful king in the Egypt. So he writes this poem Ozymandias. I met a traveler from an antique land who said, so here he says, I met a traveler. So Shelley, we find that Shelley getting detached from this poem. He says that he met a traveler who said something. Here he does not speak directly to us. Shelley does not speak. So there is a kind of detachment from the poem, and through the traveler's words we come across the views of Shelley. So from an antique land, what could be an antique land? Antique land could be very old and very far away, a very distant land. It could be Rome, it could be Greece. So anything could be a very far away land. Who said? So here the speaker is the traveler. Actually, we find the views of Shelley through a traveler who said, two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. So trunkless legs. Trunkless legs means where the torso, the upper part of the legs is missing. Very vast means very powerful and very strong legs of stone. The statue is made of stone. They stand in the desert. Near them on the sand, so you could see the picture over there, student, the trunkless legs. Near them on the sand sank, half sunk, a shattered visage lies. So near the stone, near the legs, you also find a half sunk, means half of the face is sunken into the sand because it's a desert. And then, a shattered visage. Visage means face. It's a French word uh, which means face. Shattered means broken. It's disfigured. The face is completely disfigured. It lies. And what do you find on the face? Whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command. Frown, you all know. Okay, when a person is angry or when a person is displeased, it's an expression of disapproval and displeasure. So that is called as a frown. So on the face of the statue, you find a frown. See, that is the frown, students. And a wrinkled lip and a sneer of cold command. Tell that its sculptor well those passions read. So what do these expressions tell us? One thing is the king was very tyrannical and very ruthless king who was never a happy king and who always was very serious faced. And the other thing what we come across is tell these expressions, all these expressions tell that its sculpture well those passions read. See, the poets have this license of playing with the word, students. So actually the sculpture read well those passions. So he was able to understand all these expressions on the king's face and he did not miss them in sculpting those expressions, which yet survive stamped on these lifeless things, which yet survive. Survive means live forever. Or though the king is not there, the statue is broken, but these expressions are surviving because they were stamped on these lifeless things. Lifeless things means the stones. So the sculpture was able to create and was able to get all those expressions live on the lifeless things on the stone. The hand that mocked them and the heart that fed. So whose hand? It is the sculptor's hand that mocked them. So could you understand the word mocked, students? Mocking is actually making fun of them. See, when we see an expression of a person, we will be able to see it, but the person, unless and until he looks into a mirror, he will not be able to see. So same thing has happened here also to the king's expressions. He did not know what kind of expression he was bearing on the face, even when the statue was being made. But the sculptor could see them clearly, and he made them. He did not miss a single expression. And his intention was mocking the king. Actually, the kings have to smile at least at the statue. But the sculptor might have felt very funny about that, and he mocked them. He did not miss all those negative expressions. And the heart that fed. Whose heart? The sculptor's heart. Fed means nourished. He understood the feelings very well, and he did not miss a single expression. And on the pedestal, these words appear. Pedestal means the stand on which the statue is constructed. So this is the pedestal, students. Usually this pedestal is used to convey the message or convey the details about the statue. So these words appear. What were the words appear? Now we'll understand whose statue was it. My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. So these words are written. Who's telling all these things? The traveler is telling. The statue's name is Ozymandias, and I am the King of Kings. Nobody is greater than me, because even how many other kings are there? I am the King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, how colossal or how huge my works are, and how extended my dignity and my um, popularity is there. So it's very mighty. And despair. And all of a sudden you come across a kind of hopelessness here. He says, though I am very mighty, but I understood that it will come to an end. So a kind of despair also is there in that. Nothing beside remains. And the traveler is telling, the traveler understood that nothing remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away. Only the broken statue is there. The statue which was onlooking the kingdom is completely gone, ruined, nothing remained. Now it has turned into a desert. So round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare. Boundless means there is no end for the um, desert, and it is bare. Nothing is there. Not a single sign or a symbol of a kingdom is there. The lone and the level sands stretch far away to whatever distance or stretch you can see, only the emptiness is there. All those huge things or the mighty things, whatever the things which made Ozymandias very popular, all were ruined. Completely they destroyed and they faded into history. Only the broken statue with those expressions remain. So this is what the traveler tells, and indirectly Shelley tells. So we also find a kind of contempt. He hated the rulers, the kings who thought there was no end of them, and the ruthless kings, they thought they will remain forever. They thought their names will be eternal, but everything came to an end. That's what Shelley is trying to tell us, students. Now let us go into the details of the theme and the genre of this poem. If you take these words, students, half sunk, shattered, frown, wrinkle, sneer, cold command. So these words, this plethora means there's a lot of this negative, deeply negative language is used to make it very clear that the poem is an attack and not a praising up of the powerful king. Actually, the poets were supposed to praise and appease the kings, but here Shelley expresses his contempt, and he is very uh, displeased with the king's natures. So these are the words which tell the attitude of the poet. Okay, tell that it sculptor well those passions red, which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things, the hand that mocked them and the heart that fed. So here you come across the alliterative repetition of hard C sounds here, cold, command. Whenever there is a repetition of these sounds, it's called as alliteration, students, and it tells the strong feeling of the poet. So you come across lots and lots of alliteration here. You can find them on your own wherever the uh, consonant sounds are repeated in the poem. Now, coming to the structure of the poem, this is a sonnet. Sonnet means the poem consists of 14 lines. You can count any sonnet, there should be only 14 lines. So that is the length of a sonnet, and the theme would be of love. All the sonnets theme will be love. So you can ask me, ma'am, what is the theme here? Where is the question of love? Here the king Ozymandias loves himself. That means the persons who love themselves are egoistic. So here we come across the self-love of Ozymandias. And talking about the structure, a sonnet will have the first 8 lines are called as octave. Okay, octave means the first 8 lines they talk about a problem or a situation. So here we come across the situation of a broken statue, and the face has got different kinds of expressions. The sculpture has beautifully carved those expressions. So we that arises a kind of curiosity in the onlooker. So we get a kind of curiosity to find whose statue is it, why is it lying in the open um, desert. So all those kinds of doubts will be risen in the mind of the onlooker or the reader. So that is the first octave, and the next 6 lines are called sestet. They're called as the sestet. They give a solution, or they pass on a resolution. So any sonnet, any poem which consists of 14 lines is a sonnet, and this will be the structure, students. 8 lines octave and 6 lines sestet. So what kind of solution here we come across? That it is revealed, the identity of the broken statue is revealed, and then we come to understand that Ozymandias was a very barbaric king and very egoistic, and he never used to listen to anyone. And ultimately, just his statue was lying there, and we can see that boundless and bare stretches of sand. Its kingdom is gone, everything is gone. So it tells that nothing is permanent. So this is the structure of the poem. And if you see the ninth line, this ninth line is called as a volta. So what is the characteristic feature of volta? It gives a sharp turn which brings about the move to the resolution. So if you read this line, and on the pedestal these words appear. So this situation was a kind of suspenseful. We do not know whose statue was it, why is it lying there, why is it broken and all. So this line, tells us. So it takes us to the solution or a resolution. We come to uh, see the secret being revealed here. So that sentence is called a volta. So students, now I think you can understand the structure of a sonnet. First 8 lines is an octave. Then the ninth line takes us to a sharp turn, which brings a move to the resolution. And the these 6 lines are called as sestet, and they give a solution or a passes on a resolution. Hope you understood the sonnet structure, students. Then we move on to the literary devices or the figures of speech in this poem. Okay, first literary device is imagery. What do you think an imagery is? It's a language used by poets to create images in the mind of the reader. And this is used to improve the reader's experience through their senses, the 5 senses. You all know we get the knowledge, we perceive the knowledge through these 5 senses, and the poet, he kindles the 5 senses so that our imagination becomes rich. And what are the 5 types of senses we have? Auditory, which activates the hearing ability, describes what we hear. The words used here, they describe what we hear, like music. The poets describe the music, or silence also is described, students. We can hear silence. I think all of you must have experienced this. Noise also is describe. Then the visual, the words which describe what we see, the colors, patterns, shapes, and size. You remember the colossal wreck. Colossal means a big, very huge wreck, and the vast desert. Okay, all these words, they give a kind of visual appearance or the visual appealing senses. Then the tactile, the words which describe what we touch or feel. The texture, the sand's texture, if you remember. Then the movement, that is the broken statue. Then temperature, cold. Okay, so these are the words which give the tactile imagery. Then the gustatory image describes what we taste: sour, sweet, acidic, bitter, salty. I could not find any words, gustatory words, students. If you come across, please put them in the commentary comment section. Then the olfactory, what we smell, nice fragrances and the bad odors, the words which describe the smell. So these are the 5 types of imagery, the words used by the poets to create a beautiful images when we read it. So when we watch a movie, all the 5 senses are activated. But when we read a poem also, it is the skill of the poet to activate all the 5 senses through imagery. And here I would like to give a little bit of challenge to you all. Pick out the words from the poem which are rich in imagery. So go through the poem once again, all the 5 senses. If at all you come across any words describing all the 5 senses, put them in the comment section. Let me see your reading ability. Then the next literary device is personification. What is personification? It is the attribution of human characteristics to something non-human. The non-living objects, they talk about the human characteristic. They act like humans as if they are living. That is called as the personification. Then alliteration. Alliteration is the words with the same initial consonant sounds. Hope you all know the consonant sounds, the 21 consonant sounds. So these are the examples. Besides boundless and bare. So the b sound is repeated, students, here. B, b, b. Then remains and round. R sound is repeated here. Lone and level. L sound is repeated. Sands and stretch. S sound is repeated. Cold and command. So k sound is repeated here. So this is a kind of beauty the poets give. It gives a kind of musical effect. I told you when we watch a movie, we can hear the music. But when we read a poem also, we can create music with the help of these kind of literary devices, the alliterations. Then comes apostrophe. This is also all figures of speech or the literary device. It refers to a speech or address to a person who is not present or to a personified object. So the poet talks as if somebody is listening to them. That is called as apostrophe. Then assonance, it is a repetition of vowel sounds. Alliteration is a repetition of consonant sounds and assonance is the repetition of vowel sounds. Then the pun. Pun is a single word depicting different meanings. Now let us go through the examples in the next slide. So this is imagery. You can see the stretch of far away, the sands and all, boundless and bare. So these give a kind of imagery words, and this is personification. Personification, what are personified here? The hand that mocked. See, hand is actually a part of the body, but here the ability of mocking. Humans can mock or copy or make fun of. So here he says the hand is mocking, means the sculpture is mocking with the help of his skill. Then the heart that fed. Heart is actually a part, but here it is personified. These are the examples of personification. Then the alliteration examples I've already talked, students, and this is apostrophe. Apostrophe, I told you, talking to an imaginary person. Here, look on my work, ye mighty, and uh, despair. So here the statue is talking to us as if we are listening to them. That is called apostrophe. Then assonance is the repetition of the vowel sounds. So here if you see, all the vowel sounds are half, sunk, shattered, shattered visage lies. So ha, sa, sunk. In sunk we have a sound, then shattered. All the sounds are repeated here. That is called as assonance. Then the last one is pun. a single word depicting different meanings here. The hand that mocked them. So here it could be a sculptor's hand or the hand of the time. In the clock we have two hands. So here the poet is trying to tell the time is mocking the person. See, persons think that there is no end of themselves, but the time will teach them a lesson. The hand of the time will teach them a lesson. How does the time move? With the help of the hands. So this is a pun here. Well, those passions read. Here read also is a pun. It could be copied or understood. That means the sculptor was able to read the expressions of the king very well, or he copied them and he stamped them on the face exactly. Then one more word, students, the mocking also. The mock also is a pun here. Cold command. Cold can represent death or arrogance. Usually cold, when a person dies, the body becomes very cold. So here is referring to the death of a king or the commands which were very, very tyrannous and very scary. Now they became cold. Nobody bothers because there is no life in him. Only the broken statue is there. The cold command expression is there on the face, but there is no effect in the command. That's why it became cold. The commands became cold. Once upon a time, the commands were very scary and everybody followed. But now there is no life in the command. Only the expression is there on the face. So that is the pun, students. Hope you are able to understand the literary devices. Now, this is a summary of the poem, students. Hope you've understood it. The significance of the statue collapsing and falling from the pedestal can be seen as showing that the king has been removed from his position of false superiority. So he lost his value because his superiority was very false. The people and the place he ruled are gone, leaving behind an abandoned desert whose lone and level sands imply that not even a trace of the kingdom's former glory is left. Everything is gone. The statue can be seen as a representation of human power. The statue is stripped of all power as it lies broken on the floor. Yet the desert around it remains endless and overwhelming in its size. The size is very colossal, but what is the use? Shelley describes it as boundless and bare, lone and level. This use of alliteration serves to communicate the vast emptiness and powerful extinct nature and its ability to outlive all other forms of power. Whose ability? The nature's ability. So nature can outlive all the forms of power. So ultimately we come to understand that power and status is temporary no matter how prideful a king or ruler is. So I would like to pose a question to you students. Do you know any such king or ruler in the present or past? So now we have many rulers. In the past we have kings. So do you know any such king who was very, very arrogant and very boisterous and very monarchy? Okay. And so you can write in the comment section about that king. The name, king or the ruler. Any rulers you come across in the present day politics. So I would be very happy to see your responses, students. So next video will be on the comprehension questions from this poem, students. So those who are interested, you can go through it. Thanks for watching, and if you feel this tutorial made sense to you, please do not forget to like, share and subscribe. It means a lot. I think all of you know the importance of liking. It will be shared to other students who are really in need of these kind of tutorials. Okay, bye bye. Take care now. Let's meet up in the next video.